Greetings, welcome, and thanks so much for joining me. It's Christian of Standing Stones Healing, founder of the Reiki Business Collective and host of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. And in this week's episode of the podcast, we're talking about talking to strangers. Yes, indeed, talking to strangers for your Reiki business, specifically a technique called cold outreach. And so in this video, I'm sharing with you a little bit about what cold outreach is and some ways that we can use it in our Reiki business. Now, the term cold outreach is a sales term. And before you're like, oh no, sales, I'm out, buddy, bear with me just a second. It's just a term that is used in the industry to refer to this sales technique. And the term cold means that the person that you are reaching out to doesn't know who you are. The person that you are reaching out to is essentially a stranger to you and your Reiki business. And so that person is cold, what would be called a cold lead. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of this kind of language. I don't use it myself, only use it to explain what it is. And so that when you hear it, you hear someone talking about cold outreach, you know what it is. But this is really all about reaching out to strangers to let them know about our Reiki business, to let them know who we are and what we do. Now, so often when we think of doing this kind of thing, it feels icky. It feels pushy. It feels bothersome. We worry about being annoying. Absolutely, I get it. Me too. Which is why I do not use cold outreach in my business very often. But we can indeed use cold outreach in a non-pushy, non-scammy, non-spammy kind of way. It's all in how we approach the conversation. You know, I don't know about you, but I actually like talking to strangers. I will strike up conversations with strangers. Whether in the grocery store or walking down the street, I like to talk to strangers. I like to meet new people and I like to have a chat. And so it's something that we can do in our Reiki business too. And it doesn't have to be an icky kind of thing. So if you are interested in trying cold outreach, reaching out to complete strangers to tell them about your Reiki business, I have a couple of recommendations for you. First, number one, I encourage not reaching out to random people to tell them about your Reiki business. So in other words, don't like open the phone book. I mean, does anyone use a phone book anymore? But whatever, don't open it. Don't just open the phone book, point to someone in the phone book and then call them up and say, hey, this is Christian of Standing Stones Healing. I have a Reiki business. Let me tell you all about it. Because the chances are pretty good that that person is not really interested. And so just randomly calling up strangers or connecting with strangers is not what effective cold outreach is all about. Rather, targeting individuals who may be interested in your Reiki business is the way to go. And so by targeting, you might be reaching out to members of a particular group. Let's say that your community has a civic engagement group, and you think that those people might be interested in learning about your Reiki business in their town. This would be a great group to approach, to contact the members and to let them know about your Reiki business. But in addition to the targeting, so getting specific on who you're reaching out to, number two, I really encourage you to check the message that you are sending, whether it's via email or social media or on the phone calling. however you might be reaching out, we always want to make sure that we are coming from a place of compassion and kindness and love and respect. And we're not coming from a place of fear or a place of feeling like, our stuff isn't good enough, or even from a place of, oh, they're going to want to hear about this. It's amazing. Sure, yes, we can have some confidence in what we're saying, but it's also important for us to make sure that we're mindful of the person that we're reaching out to and where they might be in their own headspace. Remember, you're a stranger reaching out to them. They're not expecting to hear from you. And so the way in which we convey our message is so very important. I encourage in our messaging to always be kind, always be respectful, always be mindful of the fact that they have a lot going on and their time is short. And so to not take up their time, to even mention that. So if you send them an email or call them on the phone, to say something like, hey, I don't mean to take up a lot of your time. I'm sorry to bother you, but I know that as a member of the local civic engagement organization, you're often interested in hearing about local businesses, and I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of my Reiki business. And so that's a simple way to just lead in by acknowledging that they have things going on and that maybe they might not be interested in your message, making sure they know that that's okay and that you're not there to bother them. You're just there to offer a public service announcement. Now, let me give you an example of this from my own Reiki business. Right now, I am conducting cold outreach in my Reiki business. So I'm reaching out to strangers, but I am not picking up the phone book and just pointing to a name and calling them up. I am conducting a search of Reiki business owners specifically and seeing who might come up. I'm also really looking for established Reiki business owners who might know other Reiki business owners who might also be interested in learning about the Reiki Business Summit. And so I'm targeting my outreach in that way with people who I feel would probably be interested in knowing about the summit, maybe even in attending themselves, but maybe passing along the information to others. Then in my emails, so I'm sending emails. In my emails, I'm letting them know that I'm reaching out because I found out about them from a Google search. So letting the person you're reaching out to know where you got their information is very helpful, and letting them know just briefly about the summit. I send them the summit website and the summit brochure and just invite them, if they know any Reiki business owners who might be interested, to send it along. Now, notice in my messaging, I'm not saying, I would love for you to come. I'm not saying, do you want to come? I'm not saying you should be at the Reiki Business Summit. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying, hey, do you know of anyone who might be interested in this? So I'm not even saying directly to them, are you interested in this? I mean, of course, I hope they are, but if they're not, that's okay too. So this cold outreach can be effective to get the word out, but the important things are that we target who we're reaching out to and that we tailor our message, that we even personalize it. Every time I send out a message, I am personalizing it. So I'm letting the person know, hey, this is where I heard about you or I found you. I like your website. I like this. I'm reaching out to you because you're an established business owner. I use their name. And so these kinds of things are very important because when we think of quote unquote cold outreach and we feel like it's spammy or scammy, indeed, that's typically spam. So cold outreach is often spam, and spam is cold outreach. period. And so if you go to your email inbox and click on the spam folder and take a look at all the messages, those are cold outreach. You didn't ask for them, they're from a stranger. And by and large, there is no personalization. It's all copy and paste sent out to 1,000 different people. You don't want to do that in your talking to strangers because we want the strangers to feel like friends. We want them to feel like they can get to know us and to trust us and to let them know that we respect them. It's really all about being kind, compassionate, and caring and respectful. And so if you give this a try, let me know. Drop it down below if you give this a try in your Reiki business. Again, make sure you are tailoring your audience and who you are sending it to. So no random cold outreach. And make sure that you are personalizing the message, not copying and pasting, and that you are respectful, kind, and compassionate in your message without being pushy. And who knows, maybe they might delete it. Maybe their spam filter might filter out your message and they might never get it. Who knows? You don't know. But I will say that with my Reiki Business Summit cold outreach, I have had responses. I've had people reach back to me. I've had them connect with me on social media, look up my stuff, and all of that is great. It's all in how we approach it, and quote unquote cold outreach doesn't have to be cold. It doesn't have to be spammy, scammy, pushy, or annoying. So I'm sending so many blessings and best wishes to talking to strangers in your Reiki business. I'll drop the link down below to that podcast episode where you can tune in for more about talking to strangers in your Reiki business.